Good morning, America. How's everybody doing today? This is for everybody out there. I want you guys to know knowledge is power. And when I first started looking into all this stuff right now, these last things I have up here, these pictures, this is what I've come down to. We are involved in something that's very deep, very hard to explain. But about 5 years ago, somebody hooked me onto a book that I listened to. And since that time, it's opened my mind up even more. So I want to pass on a few things that I want you to listen to. And then later on, I'm going to go into a lot of this stuff, and it will make more sense once you listen to this. All right? I'm going to share this with you. No, cancel. Share a screen. Here we go.
Of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, a literal translation and interpretation of one of the most ancient and secret of the great works of ancient wisdom, is brought to you by audioenlightenment.com. Copyright 2014.
All you need to listen to is the first two.
Preface to the original, The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. The history of the tablets translated in the following pages is strange and beyond the belief of modern scientists. Their antiquity is stupendous, dating back 36,000 years BC. The writer is Thoth, an Atlantean priest king who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of the mother country. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops. In it, he incorporated his knowledge of the ancient wisdom and also securely secreted records and instruments of ancient Atlantis. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt, from approximately 50,000 BC to 36,000 BC. At that time, the ancient barbarous race among which he and his followers had settled had been raised to a high degree of civilization. Thoth was an immortal, that is, he had conquered death, passing along when he willed, and even then not through death. His vast wisdom made him ruler over the various Atlantean colonies, including the ones in South and Central America. When the time came for him to leave Egypt, he erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance to the great halls of Amenti, placed it in his records, and appointed guards for his secrets from among the highest of his people. In later times, the descendants of these guards became the pyramid priests, by which Thoth was deified as the god of wisdom, the recorder, by those in the age of darkness which followed his passing. In legend, the halls of Amenti, becoming the underworld, the halls of the god, where the soul passed after death for judgment. During later ages, the ego of Thoth passed into the bodies of men in the manner described in the tablets. As such, he incarnated 3 times, in his last being known as Hermes, the thrice-born. In this incarnation, he left the writings known to modern occultists as the Emerald Tablets, a later and far lesser exposition of the ancient mysteries. The tablets translated in this work are 10, which are left in the Great Pyramid in the custody of the pyramid priests. The 10 are divided into 13 parts for the sake of convenience. The last 2 are so great and so far-reaching in their import that at present it is forbidden to release them to the world at large. However, in those contained herein are secrets which will prove an inestimable value to the serious student. They should be read not once, but 100 times, for only thus can the true meaning be revealed. A casual reading will give glimpses of beauty, but more intensive study will open avenues of wisdom to the seeker. But now a word as to how these mighty secrets came to be revealed to modern man after being hidden so long. Some 1,300 years BC, Egypt, the ancient Kem, was in turmoil, and many delegations of priests were sent to other parts of the world. Among these were some of the pyramid priests who carried with them the Emerald Tablets as a talisman by which they could exercise authority over the less advanced priestcraft of races descended from other Atlantean colonies. The tablets were understood from legend to give the bearer authority from Thoth. The particular group of priests bearing the tablets emigrated to South America, where they found a flourishing race, the Mayas, who remembered much of the ancient wisdom. Among these, the priests settled and remained. In the 10th century, the Mayas had thoroughly settled the Yucatan, and the tablets were placed beneath the altar of one of the great temples of the sun god. After the conquest of the Mayas by the Spaniards, the cities were abandoned and the treasures of the temple forgotten. It should be understood that the Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Jesus, Solomon, Apollonius, and others were initiated there. The writer, who has a connection with the Great White Lodge, which also works through the pyramid priesthood, was instructed to recover and return to the Great Pyramid, the ancient tablets. This, after adventures which need not be detailed here, was accomplished. Before returning them, he was given permission to translate and retain a copy of the wisdom engraved in the tablets. This was done in 1925, and only now has permission been given for a part to be released. It is expected that many will scoff, yet the true student will read between the lines and gain wisdom. If the light is in you, the light which is engraved in these tablets will respond. Now a word as to the material aspect of the tablets. They consist of 12 tablets of emerald green, formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable, resistant to all elements and substance. In effect, the atomic and cellular structure is fixed, no change ever taking place. In this respect, they violate the material law of ionization. Upon them are engraved characters in the ancient Atlantean language, characters which respond to attuned thought waves, releasing the associated mental vibration in the mind of the reader. The tablets are fastened together with hoops of gold-colored alloy suspended from a rod of the same material. So much for the material appearance. The wisdom contained therein is the foundation of the ancient mysteries. And for the one who reads with open eyes and minds, his wisdom shall be increased 100-fold. Read, believe or not, but read, and the vibration found therein will awaken a response in your soul. In cosmic harmony, Doriel, supreme voice of the Brotherhood. Introduction to the original and interpretation of the Emerald Tablets. In the following pages, I will reveal some of the mysteries which as yet have only been touched upon lightly either by myself or other teachers or students of truth. Man's search for understanding of the laws which regulate his life have been unending, yet always just beyond the veil which shields the higher planes from material man's vision, the truth has existed, ready to be assimilated by those who enlarge their vision by turning inward, now outward in their search. In the silence of material senses lies the key to the unveiling of wisdom. He who talks does not know. He who knows does not talk. The highest knowledge is unutterable, for it exists as an entity in lanes which transcend all material words or symbols. All symbols are but keys to doors leading to the truth, and many times the door is not opened because the key seems so great that the things which are beyond it are not visible. If we can understand that all keys, all material symbols are manifestations, are but extensions of a great law and truth, we will begin to develop the vision which will enable us to penetrate beyond the veil. All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expressions of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the working of the law which connect man the material man and man the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man, for the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of his nature, and so strengthen his will that he is able to concentrate all power of his being on and in the plane he desires. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate, its final goal is complete oneness with universal consciousness. The foundation in the material is the first step. Then comes a higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give an interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret, hidden, and esoteric meanings. Concealed in the words of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear upon the tablets will open many new fields of thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding, which is an inherent quality of the soul. In the threefold light, Doriel. End of introduction. Emerald Tablet number 1, The History of Thoth the Atlantean. I, Thoth the Atlantean, Master of Mysteries, Keeper of Records, Mighty King, Magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis. In the great city of Kior on the island of Undal, in the time far past, I began this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis, live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Chem, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves, whom whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon me. Remember and heed my words, for surely will I return again and require of thee that which ye guard. I, even from beyond time and from beyond death, will I return, rewarding or punishing as he requited your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of little people now around me, knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity knowledge that belonged to the earth young. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of all these, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thotme, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwelt within the temple and the race of men who inhabited the 10 islands. Mouthpiece after the 3 of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. Not desired I but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived. For not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate in a physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purpose might be fulfilled. Purpose yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet more wisdom, until I too approached the light emanated from the great fire. Taught me he the path to Amenti, the underworld where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. Then, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there found I greater mysteries and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. Gradually from the kingdoms of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by the spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last in his wrath arose from his Agwanti, the dweller. This word has no English equivalent. It means a state of detachment. Speaking the word, calling the power, deep in earth's heart, the sons of Amenti, heard and hearing, directed the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos, until the great fire changed its direction. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance until only the temple of light was left setting on the great mountain on Udal, still rising out of the water. Some there were who were living safe from the rush of the fountain. Called to me then the master, saying, Gather ye together my people. Take them by the arts ye have learned afar across the waters, until ye reach a land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in caves of the desert. Follow there the plan that ye know of. Gathered I then my people, and entered the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters, vanished from earth, until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the sand of the children of Cam. Raging, they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountains. Then spoke I to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we were children of the sun and its messengers. Cowed I them by my display of magic science, until at my feet they groveled when I released them. Long dwelt we in the land of Cam, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the Master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally. I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in their children. Long time dwelt I in the land of Cam, doing great works by the wisdom within me. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Cam, watered by the rains of my wisdom. Blasted I then a path to Amenti, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age, a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Cam, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Raised I high over the entrance a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amenti. Few there would be of courage to dare it, few passed the portal to dark Amenti. Raised over the passage I, a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes earth force or gravity. Deep and yet deeper placed I a force house of chamber, from it carved I a circular passage reaching almost to the great summit. There in the apex set I the crystal, sending the ray into the time-space, drawing the form from out of the ether concentrated upon the gateway to Amenti. Other chambers I built and left vacant to all seeming, yet hidden within them are the keys to Amenti. He who in courage would dare the dark realms, let him be purified first by long fasting. Lie in the sarcophagus of stone in my chamber, then to reveal I to him the great mysteries. Soon shall he follow to where I shall meet him, even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of Wisdom, meet him and hold him and dwell with him always. Built I the great pyramid, pattern after the pyramid of the earth fort, burning eternally, so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I built my knowledge of magic science, so that it might be here when again I return from Amenti. I, while I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul roaming free will incarnate, dwell among men in this form of another, Hermes thrice born. Emissary on earth am I, of the dweller, fulfilling his commands so man might be lifted. Now return I to the halls of Amenti, leaving behind me some of my wisdom. Preserve ye and keep ye the command of the dweller, lift ever upwards your eyes towards the light. Surely in time ye are one with the Master, surely by right ye are one with the Master, surely by right ye are one with the All. Now I depart from ye, know my commandments, keep them and be them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light. Now before me opens a portal, go I down into the darkness of night. End of Tablet 1. Emerald Tablet 2, The Halls of Amenti. Deep in the earth's heart lie the halls of Amenti. Far beneath the island of sunken Atlantis, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Far in the past time, lost in the space-time, the children of light look down on the world. See the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. Knew they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, we are they who were formed from the space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. Then for a dwelling place, far neath the earth crust, blasted great spaces, they by their power, spaces apart from the children of men, surrounded them by forces and power, shielded from harm, they the halls of the dead. Side by side then, placed they other spaces, filled them with life and with light from above. Builded they then the halls of Amenti, that they might dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. 32 were there of the children, sons of light, who would come among men, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force from beyond. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, driving backward the night. Placed in the center, a ray of great potence, life-giving, light-giving, filling with power all who came near it. Placed they around it thrones, 32, places for each of the children of light. Place that they were bathed in the radiance, filled with the life from the eternal light. There, time after time, placed they first created bodies, so that they might be filled with the spirit of life. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on these bodies, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. There in the circle from eon to eon sit the great masters, living a life not known among men. There in the halls of life they lie sleeping. Free flows their soul through the bodies of men, time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping, incarnate they in the bodies of men. Teaching and guiding onward and upward, out of the darkness into the light. There in the hall of life, filled with their wisdom, known not to the races of man, living forever, neath the cold fire of life, sit the children of light. Times there are when they awaken, come from the depths to be lights among men, infinite they among finite. He who by progress has grown from the darkness, lifted himself from the night into light. Free is he made of the halls of Amenti, free of the flower of light and life. Guided he then by wisdom and knowledge, passes from man to the master of life. There he may dwell as one with the masters, free from the bonds of the darkness of night. Seated within the flower of radiance sit 7 lords from the space-time above us, helping and guiding through infinite wisdom, the pathway through time of the children of men. Mighty and strange they, veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force. Different, yet one of the children of men, I different, and yet one with the children of light. Custodians and watchers of the force of man's bondage, ready to loose when the light has been reached. First and most mighty sits the veiled present, Lord of lords, the infinite 9, over the others from each cosmic cycle, weighing and watching the progress of man. Under he sit the lords of the cycles, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, each with his mission, each with his power, guiding, directing the destiny of man. There sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space, not of this world they, yet akin to it, elder brothers they, of the children of men. Judging and weighing, they with their wisdom, watching the progress light among them. There before them was I led by the dweller, watched him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice saying, Great art thou, Thoth, among children of men, free henceforth of the halls of Amenti, master of life among children of men. Taste not of death except as thou will it. Drink thou of life of eternity's end. Henceforth forever is life, thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. Dwell here or leave here when thou desirest. Free is Amenti to the Son of Man. Take thou up life in what form thou desirest, child of the light that has grown among men. Choose thou thy work, for all souls must labor, never be free from the pathway of light. One step thou hast gained on the long pathway upward, infinite now is the mountain of light. Each step thou takest but heightens the mountain. All of thy progress but lengthens the goal. Approach ye ever the infinite wisdom, ever before thee recedes the goal. Free are ye made now the halls of Amenti to walk hand in hand with the Lords of the world, one in one purpose, working together, bringers of light to the children of men. Then from his throne came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward. Through the halls of the deep hidden land, led me he through the halls of Amenti, showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Through the dark passage downward he led me into the halls where he sits the dark death. Vast this space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness, veiled on it seated a figure of night. Darker than darkness sat the great figure, dark with a darkness not of the night. Before it then paused the Master, speaking the word that brings about life, saying, O Master of darkness, guide the way from life unto life. Before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him and see him, one of our brothers, lifted from darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage, free let it flame through the darkness of night. Raised then the hand of the figure, forth came a flame that grew clear and bright. Rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness, unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me flame after flame from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leaped they before me, some flaming forth as flowers of fire, others there were that shed a dim radiance, glowing but faintly from out of the night. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light, each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with the light that could never be quenched, coming and going like fireflies in springtime, filled I the space with light and with life. Then spoke a voice, mighty and solemn, saying, These are lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living, through death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reached the zenith of growth in their life, swiftly then send I my veil of darkness, shrouding and changing in new forms of life. Steadily upward throughout the ages, growing, expanding into yet greater flame, lighting the darkness and yet greater power, quenched yet unquenched by the veil of the night. So grows the soul of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. I, death, come, and yet I remain not, for life eternal exists in the all, only an obstacle, I, in that pathway, quick to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward, flame forth and conquer the veil of the night. Then in the midst of the flames and darkness grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding ever brighter, until at last was nothing but light. Then spoke my guide, the voice of the Master. See your own soul as it grows in the light, free now forever from the Lord of the night. Forward he led me through many great spaces, filled with the mysteries of the children of light, mysteries that man may never yet know of until he too is a son of the light. Backwards that he led me into the light of the hall of the light. Knelt I then before the great Master, Lord of all from the cycles above. Spoke he then with words of great power, saying, Thou hast been made free of the halls of Amenti. Choose thou thy work among the children of men. Then spoke I, O great Master, let me be a teacher of men, leading them onward and upward until they too are lights among men, freed from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Spoke to me then the voice, Go as ye will, so be it decreed. Masters are ye of your destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take ye the power, take ye the wisdom, shine as a light among the children of men. Upward then led me the dweller, dwelt I again among the children of men, teaching and showing some of my wisdom, son of light, a fighter among men. Now again I tread the path downward, seeking the light in the darkness of night. Hold ye and keep ye, preserve my record, guide shall it be the children of men. End of Tablet 2. Emerald Tablet 3, The Key of Wisdom. I, Thoth the Atlantean, give of my...
All right. That was the one I wanted you guys to watch.
Emerald Tablet 2, The...
All right, this other guy, Rudolf Steiner. If you want to know what's going on, everything that they've done in history, they've lied. So you got to go back in history to find the truth. This guy back then was a big writer, and they destroyed him because he was the one telling everybody the secrets, nature of diseases, all kind of stuff that is all tied to still what's going on today. And here, I just want you to hear this one because somebody redid this the other day, and it is amazing of what we have out there as information.
Oh no! Have you got a big crack in your windshield? Cracks in the glass of your windshield are often very expensive to
spread in such a way that this quick reading of Rudolf Steiner from a piece of writing he did in 1917 in, I think, the month of October 7. And I'm not going to do a commentary on it, I'm just going to read what he wrote, and you can make of it what you will, or in so doing you can find the window.
Think, open your mind
through its glass, and in which can be applied to modern contemporary society, whatever you wish to interpret this piece of writing as. Quote, "It will be the main concern of these spirits of darkness to bring confusion into the rightful elements which are now spreading on earth, and need to spread in such a way that the spirits of light can continue to be active in them. They will seek to push these in the wrong direction. I have already spoken of one such wrong direction, which is about as paradoxical as is possible. I have pointed out that while human bodies will develop in such a way that certain spiritualities can find room in them, the materialistic bent, which will spread more and more under the guidance of the spirit of darkness, will work against this and combat it by physical means. I have told you that the spirits of darkness are going to inspire their human hosts, in whom they will be dwelling, to find a vaccine that will drive all inclination towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are still very young. And this will happen in a roundabout way through the living body. Today, bodies are vaccinated against one thing and another. In future, children will be vaccinated with a substance which it will certainly be possible to produce, and this will make them immune, so that they do not develop foolish inclinations connected with spiritual life. Foolish here, of course, in the eyes of materialists. The whole trend goes in a direction where a way will finally be found to vaccinate bodies so that these bodies will not allow the inclination towards spiritual ideas to develop, and all their lives people will believe only in the physical world they perceive with the senses. People are now vaccinated against consumption, and in the same way they will be vaccinated against any inclination towards spirituality. This is merely to give you a particularly striking example of many things which will come in the near and more distant future in this field, the aim being to bring confusion into the impulses which want to stream down to earth after the victory of the spirits of light. The first step must be to throw people's views into confusion, turning their concepts and ideas inside out. This is a serious thing and must be watched with care, for it is part of some highly important elements which will be the background to events now in preparation. It is pathological for people to even think in terms of spirit and soul. Quote, sound people will speak of nothing but the body. It will be considered a sign of illness for anyone to arrive at the idea of any such thing as a spirit or a soul. People who think like that will be considered to be sick, and you can be quite sure for it a medicine will be found for this. The soul will be made non-existent with the aid of a drug. Taking a, quote, sound point of view, people will invent a vaccine to influence the organism as early as possible, preferably as soon as it is born, so that this human body never even gets the idea that there is a soul and a spirit. The two philosophies of life will be in complete opposition. One movement will need to reflect how concepts and ideas may be developed to meet the reality of soul and spirit. The others, the hares of modern materialism, will look for the vaccine to make the body, quote, healthy. That is, make its constitution such that this body no longer talks of such rubbish as soul and spirit, but talks a, quote, sound view of the forces which live in engines and in chemistry, and that planets and suns arise from nebulae in the cosmos. Materialistic physicians will be asked to drive the souls out of humanity. If you enjoyed this video and wish to support the channel, you can by becoming a member of the Thoughts on Thinking community, which in return will give you access to our ever-growing library of exclusive video content. More information can be found on my website or through...
All right. Now, if you notice, he also has role of protein, fats, carbohydrates, effects of a potato diet. There is so much stuff that they talked about, and that was 1917. So everything before now, same thing with this guy going through and telling them. They tried to make him say like he was disinformation, where his information is 100% accurate. But 100 years later, this was 1917. Here we are, 2020, 2017, COVID, the whole 9 yards. Think about it. Think about it. And now look, they keep saying there's more and more. This one alone is 1 hour for this one right here. And if I was you guys, I'd listen to it.
Here goes nothing.
I'm not going to play it for you. I'm going to give you a little bit of it.
Usually provide curious. Faust is to sign the pact in blood. At first, he regards this as a joke, but Goethe undoubtedly meant the words spoken by Mephistopheles at this point to be taken seriously. Quote, blood is a very special fluid, close quote. Goethe commentators usually provide curious interpretations of this passage. You will be aware that so much has been written about Goethe's Faust that it can fill libraries. I naturally cannot go into what every commentator has said about this particular passage, but it all amounts more or less to what is said by a recent commentator, Professor Jakob Meine. Like others, he regards Mephistopheles' remark to be ironic, but Meine adds a curious sentence. I quote it in order to illustrate the amazing things said about Goethe's Faust. Meine states, quote, the devil is an enemy of blood, close quote. He goes on to point out that as blood invigorates and sustains human life, the devil, being an enemy of the human race, must of necessity be also an enemy of blood. Meine is quite right when he further demonstrates that in sagas and legends, blood always plays the kind of role it plays in Goethe's Faust. The oldest version of the Faust legend clearly describes how Faust makes a slight cut in his left hand with a penknife, dips a quill in the blood in order to sign the agreement, and as he does so, the blood flowing from the wound forms the words, quote, O man, escape, close quote. This is all quite correct, but what about the remark that the devil is an enemy of blood, and for that reason demands the signature written in blood? Can you imagine anyone wishing to possess the very thing he abhors? The only reasonable interpretation of the passage is that Goethe, as well as earlier writers of Faust legends, wishes to show that the devil regards blood as especially valuable, and that to him it is important that the deed is signed in blood, rather than in neutral ink. The supposition must be that the representative of the powers of evil believes, or rather is convinced, that he will gain a special power over Faust by possessing at least a drop of his blood. It is quite obvious that Faust must sign in blood, not because the devil is his enemy, but because he wants to have power over him. The reason behind this passage is a strange premonition, that if someone gains power over an individual's blood, one gains power over the person. In short, the feeling is that blood is a very special fluid, and it is the real issue in the fight for an individual's soul between good and evil. A radical change must come about in our modern understanding and evaluation of the sagas and myths handed down since ancient times. We cannot go on regarding legends, fables, and myths as childlike folklore, or pretentiously declare them to be poetical expressions
this is 100
of a
years old,
soul.
people.
The poetic soul of a nation is nothing but a fantasy product of donnish officialdom. Anyone with true insight into the soul of a people knows with certainty that the contents of fables and myths depicting powerful beings and wonderful happenings is something very much more profound than mere invention. When, with knowledge provided by spiritual research, we delve into sagas and myths, allowing the mighty primordial pictures to act on us, we begin to recognize the profound ancient wisdom they reveal. To begin with, one naturally wonders how it was possible for primitive man, with his unsophisticated views, to depict, in the form of fables and myths, cosmic riddles that are unveiled and described in exact terms by means of modern spiritual research. This at first seems very surprising. However, as further research reveals how these ancient fables and myths came into existence, one ceases to be amazed, and all doubt vanishes. One discovers that myths and fables, far from containing naive views, are filled with primordial wisdom.
Wisdom.
A thorough study of myths and fables yields infinitely more insight than today's intellectual experimental sciences. Admittedly, the approach to such a study must be with spiritual scientific methods. Whatever legends have to say about blood is important, because in earlier times, an individual's inherent wisdom made him aware of the true significance of blood, this special fluid that in human beings is a stream of flowing life. Whence this wisdom came in ancient times is not our concern today. It will be the subject of a later lecture, though an indication will be given at the close of this one. Today we shall look at the significance of blood in human evolution and its role in cultural life. However, our discussion will not be from a physiological or any other natural scientific point of view, but from that of spiritual science.
This is where you guys got to get spiritual science. I'm going to stop it right here. And it's just amazing. Let me see here. I want to go back. Stop sharing for a second. All right. And here, I want to do one more thing. I want to change that to that. There you go. All this stuff has to do with what he was saying. Everything. And then here's another one. I'm going to go into this in a little bit. Once they get in your blood, they got you. Everything's here. Knowledge, power, it's all here. And here I'm going to end up one more thing I wanted to do real fast. I want to share.
Tonight, the Yankees play on Prime Video. Rays Yankees, only on Prime Video. Most people think solar panels are supposed to lower your electric bill, but one secret benefit almost...
Here, the words. I gotta share that. Halls of Amenti. And all will be revealed. We're at that point, people. They've told us stuff in music over and over again. So I'm just going to cut it right here because I got a couple other things I got to do. But if you're paying attention, please read. With truth, wisdom comes the power. They've been lying to us, and all you got to do is see past that. Follow along. I'm going to do what I can to show you people. I'll see you in a little bit.